You've heard what they had to say in the past week's debates. Now we're sitting down with each candidate for mayor one final time before Election Day, talking about their goals and visions for Stamford.
One of the things I would do in 90 days is get rid of all the reserved parking spaces on the first floor of Government Center and make those either visitors or handicaps. It's been my experience in business and in life that, worker bees don't have reserved spaces, that the first floor or the front of the building is always for visitors. And I think it sends a message to our constituencies that we're open for business. That, customer service is number one. In government, we don't create anything, right? We provide a service, and I think that's important. The other thing is to get to know the people of the city of Stamford and also the employees in the city of Stamford. I'm sure they've heard things about me, and I've heard things about them. And I want them to know, that I've built a company not trying to meet people's expectations, but to exceed people's expectations. And hopefully that's something I'm going to bring to the 10th floor, and that's hopefully something that will be ingrained and flow down from the 10th floor to the rest of Government Center. Quite frankly, to do a complete audit of it, and we do that in my business. See, every year when we do a budget, we don't assume, well, we just take last year's and just multiply it by some number and away we go. We literally look at it line by line by line, and we ask ourselves the question, do we still need to do what we did last year? If the answer is yes, then the question we ask ourselves, can we do it better? And doing it better is through technology, through efficiencies, through consolidations, through integrations, all those other great buzzwords, right? But if you don't do that, what happens is you carry over all the bad habits, and so you may be finding you're spending money on something that you could do a much better job with. And I think that would be number one with respect to our budget. The other thing I would do from a planning perspective is make sure we do plan. In business, we take planning for equipment and things of that nature. In government, I don't think we do that. I think what happens is every year when boards go before the planning board, they say, well, how much money do you need? And instead of planning for it, they say, well, we really need 3, but let's ask for 6 because we know we're going to get cut down to 4, and they end up getting 2.5 million, so they're actually short what they need. I think more realistic planning for equipment, for roads, for sidewalks, I think that'll make that process easier, and also it allows us to manage our debt at a level which we can afford. The number one priorities for a mayor is public safety, and for all our citizens, but clearly our children. I want to make sure that when you send your kid off to school on a bus and they come home safely. There was a study done right after Newtown that was presented to the Board of Education. I believe a little bit over $2 million has been invested in making some improvements, but there are a lot of improvements still there. Remember, most of our schools, if not all of our schools, were built prior to this unfortunate tragedy that occurred in Newtown. I think we have to look at areas where we can improve. I think the city has to invest in them, and the city has and will continue. I think we need to look at what dollars are out there from the state and federal government in a way of grants to do that. And I think in working with the police department and law enforcement, we should look back at increasing maybe our school resource officers that are out there. I know we have them in the high school and we used to have them in the middle school, but I think they do 2 things. One is hopefully they detract from any violence, but also they're an interface with the kids so that they're talking to them about things such as bullying, drugs, and things of that nature. And I think that's kind of gone by the wayside, and unfortunately what we've seen is an increase in bullying and things of that nature. And that will be a very big piece of my administration, to get the education out there on bullying and to make sure our kids have an avenue to speak to someone if there's an issue. Well, first and foremost, to set the record straight, I'm not against a boatyard. What I am for is a boatyard that's better than was there. A brewer's yacht haven that was contaminating the waters and the sound, that no one had access to the property unless you had a boat, and quite frankly, most of the boats that were there were not Stamford residents. However, with that said, I also think we need economic development. That is what's made Stamford who we are, and that's why I keep referring to the 60s, where we had urban redevelopment on Atlantic Street. That's what put Stamford on the map. So I think there's a balance. I think you can have both, but I also think the parties that have been discussing it on both sides, the boatyard people and the folks at BLT, really need to bring some new people to the table. I think right now it's not the issue, it's the personalities that are involved in it. And as mayor, I'm going to try to bring those people to the table. They're issues that are important to our citizens, and I think it's important that we bring people who understand what our objective is. The objective of the boatyard people is to have a working, better boatyard. The objective of the developer and Bridgewater, if you want to bring them into it, is to have an office building. We can work, we can bring together, but everyone has to cooperate in working in that area. I've grown up here most of my life, 55 my 58 years, and it's been a great city. It's given me such great opportunity to the point where, you know, I've decided to raise my family here. In my business, I could work anywhere, and I've chosen here. In fact, my kids like it so much, they've come back, bought homes here, raising their family here, and that's why I'm running for mayor, is because I want those same opportunities for them and for all our kids. You know, I remember growing up, this being a small town, a little town. Now it's a big city with neighborhoods, and I want to keep that character. I want a city where all our citizens are working. I want a city and getting good paying jobs. I want a city that provides housing for all our citizens. I want an education system that's the best in the country, and I think we can get there. I want a safe city, and I want a place where other families are going to want to raise their kids here, and I think we can do that. And in the process of doing all that, we keep our unique neighborhoods, our characters that we have. Because I think, you know, having been the lieutenant governor once and having toured all 169 cities and towns, Stamford's very unique. It's very special in many different ways, and I think as mayor, I'm going to work very hard to keep it that way.